All right, so we are reviewing for your quiz that you have tomorrow for chapter 13. All right. So take a look at number 1. It says a rectangular dog pen has a length that is 10 more than its width. The area of the pen is 24 feet. What are the dimensions? Dimensions just mean how long is it? So the first thing that I would do, because it says the word rectangular, is I would draw a rectangle, right? It says that the length is 10 more than its width. It doesn't say anything at all about the width, so that's just going to be x. The length is 10 more than that, so this is going to be x plus 10. Remember, the way that you find area is to multiply those two things together. So we have to multiply this together. X times x plus 10 equals the total area of 24. Go ahead and solve the rest of this one on your own, please. Remember, we need to get it. You have to do the distributive property first, and then set it equal to 0, and then do the quadratic form. Remember that in a question like this, you will want to reject the negative answer because we can't have a negative length of a side. So when we go to multiply this out, x times x is x squared.
Please excuse
X times 10
Mr. Farley, please report to B206.
is 10x,
Mr. Farley to
and that
B
equals
206.
24. We don't want it set equal to 24. We need it set equal to 0. So we need to do minus 24 and minus 24 from both sides. That way we have x squared plus 10x minus 24 equals 0. This is where you have your choice on what you want to do. You could, if you know what times what equals negative 24, that adds up to 10, you could factor it like this. Or you could use negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You have your choice which way you want to do it. Anytime that the x squared, your a value, is a 1, it's probably easier to do it like this. If we go and do it like that, it would be a plus 12 and a minus 2. Because 12 times negative 2 is negative 24. 12 plus negative 2 is positive 10. If you do it like this, you set both sides equal to 0 and then solve. On this left-hand side, you end up with a negative 12. We can't have a negative side, so we would reject that negative 12. On this side, you would have a plus 2 and plus 2, so we get x equals 2. Take that 2 and sub it back in, so that means the width is 2. 2 plus 10 gives you 12 here. So we end up with 2 and 12. You could do the Pythagorean theorem and have negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 10 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. You could do it like that and crank out the rest of your answer, and you end up with 2 and negative 12 and reject the negative 12. Questions on this one? The next type of question that's going to be on your quiz involves a parabola. A soccer ball is kicked and its height can be modeled by the quadratic function, blah, 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 blah. How long will it take for the soccer ball to reach the ground. When it says reach the ground, we want it set equal to 0. If it said to land in a tree 10 feet above the ground, then it would equal 10. If it said land on a table that's 3 feet tall, it would equal 3. Notice that this one says round to the nearest hundredth of a second. Go ahead and try this one, please. This one, you're definitely going to want to use the quadratic formula. Again, in a question like this, you want to reject the negative because you can't have negative time. When you type in what's highlighted here in the green underneath the square root symbol, you get 932. So you have negative 30 plus or minus the square root of 932 over negative 32. This is where you could split it right here. All right. You could figure out what square root of 932 is first if you wanted to, or just leave it like that and then do it. So this is negative 30 plus the square root of 932 over negative 32, and negative 30 minus the square root of 932 over negative 32. You could type this directly into the calculator. Now, my big word of warning. Remember that if you go to type this all into the calculator all at once, you have to put parentheses around this upper part. If you don't put parentheses around that upper part, you will get the wrong answer because the calculator will try to just do the square root of 932 divided by negative 32 first, instead of adding it together first. So you have to make sure that you put parentheses around there, or if you type in just the top and hit equals first, then do that answer divided by negative 32. That's a different way to do it. But be very careful. You have to have those parentheses. So on this side, you end up, when you round to the nearest hundredth, on this side, you get negative 0.02 when you type it into the calculator. On this side, you get 1.89. Again, we are going to reject the negative time because you can't have negative time. So our answer would be 1.89 when you round to the nearest hundredth. Questions on this one? Take a look at number 3. In question number 3, solve the following system algebraically. Notice that both of these are set equal to y. When they're both set equal to y, all that you want to do is set those two things equal to each other. So x squared minus x minus 6 equals 2x minus 2. You want to get them equal to 0. Don't make your x squared negative. So you want to get 0 over on this side. So minus 2x plus 2 and plus 2. That way on this right-hand side of the equal sign, you have it equals 0. There's really a -1 in front of that x. So be very careful. You really have x squared minus 3x minus 4. Be very, very careful there. Now go ahead and solve the rest of that. You could factor it, which is very easy because it's just a -4. Or you could do the quadratic formula, which is probably more work on this one. So what times what is -4? That adds up to -3. Now there is more work to be done with this one because you need to find both x and y. So if I do it factoring like this, what times what is -4? That adds up to -3. It's going to be -4 and +1. Draw your line down the middle, set both sides equal to 0. This is not a word problem, so we are not rejecting the negative answer. So there's really 4 different answers that you're going to find here. So initially we get x equals 4 and x equals -1. After you find the x's, then you need to find the y's as well. So to find the y's, we need to take these answers and sub them in for x. You can choose either equation you want to sub them into. I'm going to tell you the second one is definitely easier to sub it into. So instead of 2 times x, I have 2 times 4 minus 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. So I get x equals 4 and y equals 6. On this part, I have y equals 2 times -1 minus 2. 2 times -1 is -2. Minus 2 is -4. So I get x equals -1 and y equals -4. These two go together. All right, these two go together, and these two go together. You'll see answer blanks for all 4 answers. Questions on this one? All right, take a look at the next one. Now we're doing something with solving graphically. So you need to graph the one, graph the other one, and see where they cross. Go ahead and do that. Remember, you want to hit second and table to find the points for these. that top equation is a parabola. The bottom equation is a straight line. Remember, sometimes the line will cut right through the middle of the parabola and you'll have two solutions like we do in this one. These two are crossing right here and right here. Remember that when you go to write a solution, solutions are written as coordinates, all right? So parentheses, your x value, comma, your y value. Remember, your x value is how many you go over, your y value is how many you go up or down. So where do these two cross? They cross right here. This one is over to -2, up to +3. So that's one answer. And the other place that they cross is right here. This is over to 1, up to 6. So you can look at your graph and see it that way. You could go to your table and you would see those coordinates in common with each other, right? You'd see the same number in the table for x equals -2 and x equals 1. You could also go to second and calc and then find the intersection point by choosing the first graph, choosing the second one, and then it'll say guess. You have to line it up close to where those points are, hit equals that, or hit enter that third time, and it will give you the exact intersection. So these two crossed at 2 points. They sometimes might only cross at 1 point, and sometimes they might not cross at all, which would be no solution. Taking a look at the next type of question, find two positive consecutive even integers whose product is 840. Now, there's a couple different things going on here. First of all, we're only looking for positive numbers, and we're looking for consecutive even. Remember, if it just says consecutive, that would be x and x plus 1, because that's how you get numbers right in a row. If it asks you for consecutive even or consecutive odd, you have to count by 2s. So our first integer is just going to be x. Our second one, remember, even and odd are found the same way. It would be an x plus 2, whose product is 840. So we want to multiply these two things together, and it equals 840. Go ahead and finish this one, please. You will have to reject answers on this one because they're asking you only for the positive answers. You can factor it. You could use the quadratic formula. It's up to you how you want to solve it. So when you have a multiplying question like this, you want to distribute. So you have x squared plus 2x equals 840. We don't want to set equal to 840. We want to set equal to 0. So you're going to do minus 840 and minus 840 so that it's set equal to 0. You could factor it. What times what is negative 840? That adds up to 2. Or you could do the quadratic formula. Doesn't matter which way you do it, you'll end up with the same answer in the end. If you factored it, it would be x plus 30, and x minus 28. So when you would do that, you would have x plus 30 equals 0, x minus 28 equals 0, minus 30 minus 30. You get x equals negative 30. Now you're going to reject that one. Why are you rejecting that one? Because the question asks for positive. If it didn't ask for positive and that word wasn't in the problem and it just said find two consecutive even integers, then we would have 4 different answers. But because they specified positive, we need to reject the negative. So finishing this one off, plus 28 plus 28, you would get x equals 28. Take that, sub it back in. So 28 plus 2 is 30. So you end up with 28 and 30. Same exact thing would happen if you did the quadratic formula. After you figure it out and take the perfect square of whatever that number is, you'd still get negative 30 and 28. Questions on this one? One last one. One integer is 3 more than. More than means to add. Less than means to subtract. But less than is the one that's backwards. So if it said 3 less than twice, it would be 2x minus 3. This one says 3 more than twice. So this one is really x and 2x plus 3. Twice means to multiply by 2. And their product is 44. Go ahead and try this one, please. When you go to distribute, you have x times 2x plus 3 equals 44. So that's 2x squared plus 3x equals 44. We want to set equal to 0. So you're going to subtract 44 and subtract 44. Now, because there is a 2 out in front, I would not suggest factoring it. If you did factor it, what the correct answer should have been was 2x plus 11 times x minus 4. That was really the correct answer that you would have to use to draw your line down the middle. I would have personally chose to do the quadratic formula in this one. So -3 plus or minus, when you type that into the calculator, you get the square root of 361. 361 is actually a perfect square. You wouldn't guess that it is, but it's 19. So this is -3 plus or minus 19 over 2. Split it. So we have -3 plus 19 over 2. 19 plus -3 is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So that's one of our, what did I do wrong? 2a, 2 times 2. Thank you. This is 2 times 2, so this is really a 4. This is really a 4. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. Sorry about that. And then on the other side, we have -3 minus 19 over 4. -3 minus 19 is -22 divided by 4. And that is -5.5. Now, what happens there is we have a decimal. Notice that our question is asking about integers. So we need to reject this one because it is a decimal, because we only want integers, not decimals. So you take your 4, you sub it back in. So x equals 4. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11. Always make sure, double check your answer and make sure it makes sense. It says their product is 44. Well, 4 times 11 does give you 44. So those are what your quiz questions look like tomorrow.